Welcome to Elite K-9 Unleashed. I'm Chris, a former law enforcement K-9 handler and a professional dog trainer.
And I am Rachel, business strategist and the one behind all things business and marketing here at Idaho Elite K-9 Training and Boarding Suites.
Together, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to raise, train, and live with dogs at the highest level.
And we'll share the stories, lessons, and laughs on what it takes to build a business, a family, and a life centered around dogs.
Whether you're a dog owner, trainer, or handler, or just somebody who loves dogs, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Elite K-9 Unleashed. Welcome back to episode 14 of Elite K-9 Unleashed. And today we have a very special guest on the show with us today. We are welcoming Dr. Adam Petersen with Skyline Animal Hospital here in Idaho Falls, who is an amazing veterinarian and one of our good, close family friends as well. He specializes in helping pet parents achieve lifelong health for their lifelong friend. And we have had the opportunity to be able to work with Dr. Petersen for a lot of years with a lot of different things. He even, in fact, before any dog was boarded here at Idaho Elite K-9 Boarding Suites, we actually consulted with him on the best way to go about our cleaning routines and our vaccines. And so we are super, super grateful that he's here with us today. So welcome, Dr. Petersen. We're so grateful to have you here.
Here I am.
I thought it would be great if, Chris, you kind of just could tell everyone. Just a little history.
Yeah, so Dr. Petersen and me met when I got my K-9 Tango. I spent my time in Alabama with him, then brought Tango back, and first thing when we get back, we meet up with Dr. Petersen at Skyline Vet. He actually does all the local K-9s, IFs, Bonnevilles, I guess, and even Rexburg.
We just added those guys.
Yeah, so he does all the local K-9s. So that's how we first met. Tango actually had some issues when we first came back, ended up having heartworm and some other things. So we got to spend lots of time together when we first got back, getting that all figured out. And then he's trusted by all the local law enforcement agencies to take care of all the K-9s. So we highly recommend him. He knows what he's doing, and we enjoy getting to see him and meet with him. So,
yes.
Yeah, there's kind of a rough and tumble IFPD officer that we did. I don't even know if you were a handler yet, but we did a continuing education type of deal on training day. And he stood up and everybody that was there was all the local people who look, anybody who doesn't go to him, you're nuts. So I want you to take your dog. Like, he pretty much forced everybody to come. And that was a long time ago. And yeah, it's been really, really good. We have a lot of, we have a technician whose husband is a master chief in the Navy. He was 20 years and he was a dog handler. And so he ran bomb dogs in Iraq, and he ran full kennels and in all of these other places. And so they have owned multiple service dogs over the years, very, very real, apprehension dogs and stuff like that. And as far as technicians go, there's probably, I don't know if there's anybody in the state that has more experience than she does. And so the combination of the two of us works out really, really nicely as far as, and so now we have this kind of reputation for the grumpy dogs. Yeah. So we have a lot of people call and say, hey, I got a German Shepherd, or I got a Malinois, or I got a pit bull that wants to bite everybody. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. Bring them in. So those are not the dogs that bite me. Yep. The dogs that bite me are the ones you're not expecting, a little Chihuahua or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I will say definitely when we come in, because I know who you're talking about, that's the nice thing when we come in there is you have other people too that have dealt with working dogs, so they understand how to work with them. Sometimes if you go other places, they haven't dealt with that. They just have no idea. Or we've even seen sometimes we take a dog somewhere and they're pretty nervous when they realize, hey, what kind of dog this is. So being able to come in and just have your staff jump right in and not even worried about it. They're like, yeah,
with
we
open
got
arms,
it. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we got
Welcome
it.
them with open arms.
Absolutely.
And we're kind of known for the same thing. We deal with a lot of aggressive dogs.
Right.
We deal with a lot of reactive dogs, just because of what we've done. So, but yeah, it's nice. So Dr. Petersen, tell us a little bit about what led you to being a vet and what led you to Skyline Animal Hospital. Kind of walk us through that.
Through my history. So, so I took AP biology as a sophomore, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. Literally, it was one of those things that I was just like, whoa. And specifically, we were learning about cellular biology and how cell works, and the intricacy to which a cell, every single cell in your body works, is astounding. It's ridiculous. And that was very mind-blowing for me. That was like, whoa. And so I really liked the idea of being a part of that in one way, shape, or form. I thought about human medicine first, actually, but I didn't want to deal with the stuff in human medicine. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Insurance and you know, all of these other things. I didn't want to deal with that. And so I thought about human dentistry second, and for like 10 minutes. And then I was like, I don't think I want to be in this space all the time, just here. And so then I went, oh, vet medicine makes sense. Vet medicine makes sense. And so ironically, now I spend all my time here.
Yeah, right.
In dogs' mouths.
Yeah, because
and
you do
cats'
dental
mouths.
stuff.
See,
Yeah.
Spend so much time there. So the irony is that I chose the anyway. But that's what led me into it. And then so I followed that path. And in time, I got into vet school, and I actually went into vet school. My essay to get me into vet school was about being a wildlife vet.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Yeah, it's about being a wildlife vet. I really like the idea of like flying around in helicopters and darting things from the air and stuff like that. That just seemed cool to me, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's a cool office to have. Until I had a buddy at vet school who said, "Hey, do you have any idea what wildlife vets do?" And I went, "Well, no. Not really. I mean, they fly around in helicopters and dart things, right?" And he was like, "Here, there's a buddy of mine. His dad was a veterinarian. He said, this is the Idaho State Wildlife Vet, and I want you to, get to know this guy a little bit, just so you know what you're up." And I found out that they are in the field like 2 months a year, and they're in an office writing, a lot
of paper pushing.
a lot of stuff for like 10 months a year. And I was like, I don't know. So then I was really open to kind of a next path, and what I ran into was the possibility of veterinary business ownership, and that was the next, like, this idea of being able to do what Skyline has done. So I came out of I redirected, like, with a lot of passion into that direction, and came out of school with the intention of owning a veterinary hospital in 24 months. It took me 30, so bought it 30 months out of school from Rhonda Elia, who did a great job before me, and that was 2010. So that's what took me to Skyline, and then at Skyline we've been able to just do all sorts of really, really cool things from that perspective. Like I said, we do a lot of teeth. We do all the service dogs, which makes sense, right? I mean, it's a good fit because service dogs bite things for a living.
They got,
Which means that their teeth are problematic, and so they do. They break a lot of teeth, and so we've had two. We've had two of them. We had one in yesterday, and we had one in last Tuesday, and so yes, pretty common thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Tango had to have a couple teeth removed, so
they
definitely
all do.
common. Yep.
If you bite for a living, the reality is that in time we're gonna lose some of those guys.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Well, I know in preparing for this podcast, we kind of talked about things that you were passionate about, that you felt like would be important for pet owners to have some more information on it. And the three that we came up with were dental health, vaccines, and pet obesity. Mm-hmm. So is there a reason that those three were like, I really want the questions to be structured around those?
Dentistry, yeah. Obesity, yeah. So we'll talk about those two things. I mean, vaccines, yeah, as well. But vaccines is a pretty controversial type of subject and that kind of thing. And so it's one of those things that, like, we were just kind of spitballing. Yeah. And so I'm okay with... but the first two are pretty, teeth in particular, super, super passionate about from that perspective. But obesity is a really, really big deal too, right? Yeah. I would love to not have to talk about obesity. I would love to not have to deal with obesity. But the reality is that the majority of animals that walk through my door are chubby, and that has implications in it, right. So that one's one that's kind of like, if you either deal with this well, or you don't, but if you deal with it well, then you can really improve the life of the animal's in front of you. But if you don't, then they're going to struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots of health implications for
Lots.
Yeah.
We see that all the time with dogs that come in here. I'll usually politely ask, like, how much does your dog eat in a day? How on our board or our intake paperwork we have them fill out, we have a question on there.
Do you think your dog is overweight, underweight, or just right?
Yeah, and we ask that question, and shockingly, I don't think people understand what a healthy dog looks like, and I think that's a lot of the problem is people, like when you tell them, no, I think your dog's a fair amount overweight, and they're like, no, I think they're about right.
He's just solid.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time.
Yes. So a lot of people, I think, don't even understand, and then I'm not a vet, so we don't understand, all the health issues, but I know it's not, it causes all sorts of issues, hip issues, I'm sure heart issues, I'm sure just like people, right? There's all sorts of issues that it causes, but it's shocking just to see how many people honestly do not think their dog is overweight at all. And then when they do see a healthy dog, they're like, oh, that dog needs more food.
Yep.
And it's like, no, that's a pretty healthy dog.
Yep.
So
here's my rule of thumb, and I use it all the time. The rule of thumb that I use, particularly with there's certain dogs that I want a little bit even on the thin side. Those are going to be orthopedic dogs, right? The dogs that have a limp, the hip stuff that you're talking about, knee stuff, elbow stuff. So any dog that's kind of struggling in that way, or heart dogs. So the dogs that I want them a little bit on the thin side. But even with, I'm on a pretty regular basis, what I'll tell people is, I want your family members and your neighbors to make comments occasionally, right? Steve Young one time said that he knew that he was living the lifestyle that he was really committed to, if he got regular questions in the locker room about why he was doing certain things. And as soon as those questions started to tail off, he would go, okay, what am I not doing? Why aren't, does that make sense?
Yep.
And so it's kind of the same thing. Like my rule of thumb is I kind of want your neighbor to make a comment occasionally about how you should feed your dog more, because our social acceptance, our cultural acceptance of what a dog should look like has kind of morphed over the years to the point where, So, the reality is you shouldn't, it depends on the dog, but you shouldn't necessarily be able to see ribs, but you should be able to feel the ribs pretty readily, and that's just simply not the case. And I would say, I think it's something like 60 or 70% of, particularly with dogs. Obviously it's an issue that we run into with cats as well. It's kind of a different bag of chips, but it's something like 60 or 70% of dogs over 7 years old struggle with weight. They have too much weight, and then that brings with it. Here's a crazy statistic for you. There's a study like 20 years ago, and they just looked at these. They tried to do the best they could to find, dogs with a certain type of owner and a certain type of lifestyle and a certain type of this, certain type of that, and kind of match them with kind of a corollary. And they did that with a whole bunch of dogs, and one side of that was the side that had a good body condition score, i.e. like in good shape, and one was chubby. They tried to match so that there was no difference. And what they found was that the thin dogs lived 4 years longer than the chubby dogs. Yeah,
right? Huge difference.
So this is this idea of lifelong health for your lifelong friends, right? It's this idea that if we make certain decisions, if we make certain choices. So back to your question, I guess, about obesity and vaccines and dentistry, part of the passion there that's within that, there's a list of things that if we make the right decisions on certain things, our friends will flat out live longer. And that's what we all want, right? That's what we're all after, is for these guys to live a little bit longer. And so obesity is a huge one. But if we just feed them appropriately and they stay this kind of same thing, if you want your dog to live with you 4 years longer than he otherwise would, number one on the list is keeping him thin.
Keeping him healthy.
And teeth is another one that fits right into that too. Because you have a thin dog with a horrible mouth, and you're not getting those extra 4 years. But you can have perfect mouth and a chubby dog, and you're also not getting those 4 years. You know what I mean? So
since we're on this topic, we get this question a lot. We feed once a day. Well, when they're puppies, we'll feed multiple times a day. Usually until about a year, and then we kind of switch over to feeding once a day. We deal with lots of people that come in and still feed their dog, an adult dog, they'll be feeding 3-4 times a day. And usually with those dogs mostly are overweight too. But
and then you're supposed to put a little egg on there.
Yes,
And
and
here's the cheese
and some chicken.
Yes,
and,
yes. And I brought it, so you can just go ahead and dole that out on there.
Yeah, exactly.
I live in that world too.
So, is it? I've heard that dogs are kind of designed to maybe only eat once a day, maybe even once every couple days. Well, obviously, we don't do that, but once a day. Are they kind of designed to take in food once a day, process the food? They should have some downtime after that, or is it okay to feed multiple times a day? What is your thoughts on that?
My preference is twice a day.
Okay.
My preference is twice a day. And there's a very, very strong correlation with your background and the once a day feeding. And so the service dogs in particular, and maybe even like, trial dogs and these dogs that they're living, their lifestyle is really getting out and getting after it. There is something to be said there in regards to once a day feeding. For your average, likes to hang out and chill out on the couch and that sort of stuff, I prefer twice a day feeding. The reason I prefer twice a day feeding is because of the spike in metabolism that comes with it, right? So if you have a dog that is overweight, one of the easiest things that you often can do, we got to get the amounts dialed in, but is to split that, cut the food in half or more than that often, and feed twice a day, because then you'll get this metabolism spike twice a day as opposed to once. So the service dogs don't need that. We don't. What I mean by that is I am not worried about their metabolism. They are working, they are training, they are, and a lot of the dogs that you're going to see too, as far as your training, these hunting dogs and a lot of these guys that are out and about and doing their job, we do not need to worry about their metabolism. But if your dog is chilling out more on the couch, then navigating that metabolism in every way that we can makes some sense. And so twice a day feeding is my preference for just kind of your
your average home,
your average chill out, hanging out dog. Okay. Yeah, I prefer twice a day.
Yeah, and working dogs, we address more probably the once a day, especially because we don't want a torsion, we don't want bloat, we don't torsion, bloat. I think same thing.
It is.
So we worry about that. Totally. So we always feed downtime.
Super valid worry.
Yeah.
It's a super valid worry. And in those circumstances, that is the reason that you and I go way, way back. And you and I've never recommended you not feed once a day, right? Yep. Because of that. It's a very, very big risk, particularly in deep-chested dogs, right? So deep-chested dogs are going to be, German Shepherds are highest on the list. They are absolutely highest on the list for bloat, which is also known as GDV, which is known as gastric dilatation volvulus, which means it's a torsion, right? The stomach goes. So if the stomach's full and they're out running and playing, they have this deep chest, and the stomach will go flip, and that's bad.
Yep.
Like
we'll kill the dog.
Bad. Yep. Marley and Me.
Yep.
For anybody who's seen Marley and Me, this is how Marley died in Marley and Me, is because of GDV. And he torsed once, and they just passed a tube and they fixed it at that point. Not to ruin the movie, but they should have gone in and done surgery, because there's a surgery that you can stop that, and they didn't. He retors and he died from that. It's a big, big deal. So in service dogs, working dogs that are out and about, I don't have any problem with it at all. The biggest issue with most, and so if we go back to these dogs that just are hanging out on the couch and chilling out with you, most of our pet dogs, the biggest problem by far, and the same thing with humans, and that is amount that we feed them. Just straight up amount that we feed them. It's far less related potentially to numbers of times to feed them. I don't even have a problem weight wise. If you're going to feed a dog 4 times a day, it's fine.
Just the
as
amount.
long as the amount is dialed in, right? Yeah. And the amount that's dialed in, I am not kidding. When somebody comes into me and I'm talking about weight on a dog, I will. Any of my clients that we've had this discussion, I have 1,000 clients. They can say, "Yep, seen them do that." I will pull out my phone and I do a calculation, because this is not me just like. I go, well, I think you ought to feed, right? Yeah. This is science. And so I'll look at the weight, I'll put my hands on the dog, and I'll go, okay, your dog, I believe, should weigh X. And to get there, I want you to feed this twice a day. That's based on literally a calculation that I come up with. I show the owner, and then we split it up. And then we, right, it's just like metabolism in humans. It's not going to be the same, right?
Yep.
Right? I have one brother that for like the majority of his life has been like freaking rail. And my dad was the same way. It didn't really matter what he ate, and their metabolism is a little bit different than, maybe my other brother, and that kind of thing are different than me. And so sometimes we got to dial that thing in. But I can tell you this, I've never met a dog food bag that I liked from a standpoint of recommended amount.
Yeah.
The recommended amount is almost always wrong. And part of the reason for that is because the animal that you see in front of you weighs 62 pounds. That's what the vet just said. But the dog's supposed to weigh 50. Well, so what do we feed? On the back of the bag, we're feeding for the 60-pound dog.
Yep.
And that's a metabolically active, that's like what we should have been eating when we were 20.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to take what I ate when I was 20, and that's what
Eat
I'm
it
going to
now.
eat now at the same time frame. And believe me, weight is going to be a little bit different of an issue. So the calculation that I do is based on metabolic energy requirement, right? Of how much does this body weight need to function at this level. So it's a scientific thing. It's for most dogs most of the time, and there are some exceptions, but for most dogs most of the time, this isn't rocket science.
No.
It's a matter of getting things dialed in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into that with Tango because I fed Tango the same amount for probably 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I came in one
He hit
time.
7, I bet.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
Yeah, it was about that age. I came in and we're like, he's getting big. And I'm like, why? I'm feeding him the same. Well, his metabolism as he got older started to change.
And he didn't eat anything other than his food.
Yeah.
For his
Right.
entire,
that's
no
all
table scraps,
we didn't,
nothing. Like he just ate
but
what
his
he was
metabolism
supposed to be
changed,
eating.
and I had to really cut back his food to keep his weight where he needed to be.
Totally.
So it was just interesting to see over time because I wasn't even really paying attention to it. We weighed him, and it's like, well, I'm feeding him the same way. It shouldn't have changed. But as they age, just like us, things change.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. If you eat the same way, same patterns at 50 that you did when you're 25, you're not going to have the same result.
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And another thing with weight that's a really, really big one. You ready? So here's a principle that makes a lot of sense. That is absolutely accurate, which is the battle for the scale is won or lost at the food bowl, and not at the end of a leash.
Yep.
Okay? So you get people that are like, yeah, I haven't been walking, it's been wintertime, he's fat. No, he's fat because you're eating too much. Okay?
Yep.
So, and there's a very simple correlation in the human world, which is you have two choices. You can eat the donut, and then you can run 5 miles. And if you eat the donut and run 5 miles, now you're back to 0. Or you cannot eat the donut.
Yep.
You're at the same place. And so it's the same thing with dogs. 100% of the time, the weight is related to calories that are ending up in the food bowl or from your hand.
Yep.
And that's where the weight comes from. And so that's the battle that needs to be won there as far as that goes.
Yeah. 2 more things, and then we can. So we see this all the time, and I understand people love their pets, and well, it's hard to tell people. Like, I understand you love your pet, but you're killing your pet at the same time,
loving
right?
them
to death, right? You cannot feed your dog all of this table scraps and food and be overweight. And if you do, just understanding that you're going to shorten the dog's life. Doesn't mean we just see that all the time. People feel like, well, I love my dog, I have to give him these things. And it's like, you can love your dog. And I know you love your dog. There's no doubt in my mind that you don't love your dog. But do you want your dog here for another 3 or 4 years past when he, totally. if we continue down this road, you're going to cut his life a couple years short. How do you have that conversation with people? It's a hard conversation to have. And a lot of people think if they don't do that stuff that they don't love their dog, or they're not caring for their dog in the proper way, when in all reality, they're doing the opposite of what they should be doing.
I had this client come in one time who was talking about unconditional love. Okay.
Yep.
And so this is a little bit different subject, but I'll bring it around with unconditional love. And he said, look, this is what unconditional love is. Take your wife, take your dog, lock them in the trunk of your car for an hour. Let them out. Who's happy to see you? That's unconditional love, right? Now, I don't necessarily agree with any of that.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying. But it makes this point that at the end of the day, what you feed or what you don't feed is not a measurement for how much a dog loves you or how much the dog feels loved, right? It's not like you say, no, you can't have this potato chip, and then the dog goes and sits in the corner and mopes. That's not what happens. The dog's like, okay, well, let me lick your fingers then. You know what I mean? And so there's this idea that, I mean, it's a tough thing to navigate. It is a tough thing to navigate, but this idea is how do I want to love my dog? Do I want to love my dog into longer and better health, or do I want to love my dog into shorter health. And I had a client one time, I will never forget it. I walked through the door, he's got these 2 pugs, and these 2 pugs were like hanging out with us. They boarded with us all the time, and it was the very I don't even think I'd bought Skyline yet. I just walked through the door. This is like 2009, and he looked at me and he goes, look, my dogs are fat and they're happy and I don't care and I don't want to talk about it. And I went, you got it, dude.
Yeah.
Done. And I was their vet for 5 years.
Yep.
Guess what we never talked about?
The weight.
Was
The
weight.
dog's weight,
Yep.
yeah.
Because he told me from the very beginning, I'm cool with that.
Yep.
That does not bother me. If you're cool with that, that's fine. But if at the end of the day, what you really want, what you desire, what you is to have them for longer, then that's a different set of that's a different conversation that we're going to have, different set of conversations that we're going to have to be able to get from point A to point B, right? And Skyline Animal Hospital is built from this idea, from the ground up. It is built from this idea that these guys are family members.
Because they are.
Dude, they're part of the crew,
Yeah.
right? They're part of the crew. And I very much understand that does not fit the kind of the personality or belief system or whatever of a lot of pet owners, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, when those guys come into Skyline Animal Hospital, because of the conversations we're having, the recommendations we're having, the things that we, that are tough, that is often a client that's going to end up going, I might find somebody else who isn't quite so aggressive with recommendations, for example,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and that's perfectly fine. But if what you're looking for, if what you're after is like a pediatrician, because that's what this dog is, she snuggles up for you while you're watching TV at night, and if this is that thing, that like little, part of your family, that's what Skyline Animal Hospital is built and designed around. And in that circumstance, I want my dogs, and I don't have cats personally, but I want my pets to be part of my family for as long as possible, right? And that's where these recommendations are built on, and obesity is one of those, that if that's what we're after, and there are some circumstances where we really, really struggle with weight, particularly with a handful of dogs, that it's a really tough nut to crack. They're just genetically, there is a really, really tough nut to crack. But even with those guys, there's a very specific food that we can put them on. They generally do really, really well on. But most of the time, the obesity that is shortening their lives are day-to-day decisions that we are making to show them love, and while doing it, we're shortening their lives and the quality of their life.
Yep.
Let's talk about that.
Quality
Let's not
goes
even talk
way
about
down.
Yes.
They
yes.
They
talk
can't
about
do anything.
distance of life. We'll talk about quality of
Yeah.
life. We have the same thing. We have this arthritis, or we have heart issues. We have that sort of stuff. 7 years old, you have this dog that completely shuts down.
Yep.
I work with a veterinarian who was a marathon runner, and she ran with her dog. Her 14-year-old lab would run 15 miles with her.
Yep.
And then while she's like recovering, dog's playing in the creek.
Yep.
Right? That's what's possible with a little bit of luck, of course, but by making the right decisions.
Yeah, quality of life goes way up. And you see some dogs come in here or just out in public, and you can tell the dog's miserable. Like, the dog hurts to move. The dog, just to get from point A to point B is uncomfortable.
Yep.
And those are sad to see, because yes, I know they love their dogs, but the dog truly has no quality of life and is in pain.
Totally. And we can manage those things, okay? Right? This isn't
Yeah.
us like there's some people out there that are feeling guilty, right? I have a fat dog at home, working on it. So this isn't meant for that. And those dogs, right? We have these dogs that are struggling with arthritis, and that struggle with their hips or their knees or their elbows or something like that. We can manage that too. We have all sorts of tools, right? Vet medicine has progressed to a point now where we have all sorts of tools that we can help you through that as well. We can do this, or we can do this, or we can do this. There is a set of options that we can do almost regardless of how bad that arthritis is to try to manage that. So that's a conversation we can have.
Yeah.
So if you are there home and feeling guilty and all of that, and we have a dog that's struggling to get around, then let's talk about it, because there's all sorts of things that we can do to help with that. But first on that list,
Got to get some weight off.
is always going to be weight.
Yep.
That is a conversation that we're going to be having in regards to arthritis.
Okay, on that same topic, we get a lot of people in here that don't necessarily know about torsion or bloat. So if you could touch on that, also that it is an emergency, that's something quick that they need to get to the vet, they need to recognize quickly, and then the surgery that can help prevent that. I think they call it a PEXI or whatever. I'll let you explain that. I mean, if you could just touch on those, and then we'll move on.
You got it. So, so there's a couple of different names for this thing. So bloat is the most common. The problem with the word bloat is that it's really kind of confusing as to what that means, right? I mean, if your dog's just laying around, right? But what we're talking about here, so torsion is another word that's used there. The official, the kind of whatever medical terminology is a GDV. And so what that is that the breeds that struggle with it are, again, they're the deep-chested breed dogs. So German Shepherds are first on the list. And part of that is just numbers, right? They're the most common deep-chested breed dog. Great Danes are another one that are fairly high on that list. Malinois are going to be on that list, but even some labs are going to be on that list. And because labs are so common, honestly, we do run into it in labs as well. So something real big like a Mastiff or something like that, we don't run into it as often, but I'll be honest, I do talk about the prevention with pretty much everything that's maybe 60 pounds and above. So we'll circle around to that in a second. But so what it is that you, there are some theories out there as to how to help with it, but the reality is nothing works perfect. But the idea is that the stomach, particularly when it's full, and in a deep-chested dog, there's a lot of room as they're running and as they're jumping like a swing set, right? And if they do it just so, then the whole thing can flip. And when it flips, it pinches off the inflow and the outflow, which is also the blood supply that comes in there. So it flips over. And it is if this happens, it is a huge freaking deal. Like this is they can be dead in 60 minutes type of thing. This is a big deal. And the reason for it is twofold. The blood supply is cut off, and that's problematic. But then also there's billions of bacteria in there that all produce gas. So as they're producing gas, this thing's expanding like a balloon, and you have blood supply that's been cut off. And if blood supply is cut off to a portion of the stomach for very long at all, that portion of the stomach will die. And cutting out a portion of the stomach is not something that goes real well, particularly because you're usually talking about massive portions of the stomach that are dying. So this is something that is absolutely fatal if untreated. So clinical signs associated with it generally are going to be, there is going to be like a balloon type of feel to the stomach, like if it feels like a balloon, you probably ought to get to the vet. But they get like pretty sick pretty quick, and not like vomiting, diarrhea usually. They just become very, very lethargic. They just want to lay around outside. Like if your dog is laying around outside in a weird time and you're calling him, he's not coming, you probably got to go check and poke on his belly. And if that thing's blown up, dude, you need to get to the vet now. No. And you walk through the door, we shoot an x-ray, and your dog is on the table 10 minutes later. I don't care what else is going on at Skyline. Like we're clearing the books because this is a surgery that has to happen right this second. So those are the breeds that struggle with it. That's what happens behind it, and that's how it's got to be treated. Okay. So there's a very simple prevention for this thing. Super easy prevention that I recommend, and I recommend a lot, and I probably do, I would say at least once a month, probably 20 times a year I do this, and these are generally going to be 50-pound dogs and bigger, some that have like super conscientious owners, some that are like the breeds that really fit. So it is not common at all. I mean, it's not uncommon at all for me to see a dog that's on the table, that's scrubbed and ready to go, and I go, have we talked to that owner about GDV? And people will be like, So I literally will go pick up the phone and I'll dial while the dog's on the table and I'll say, hey, let's talk about bloat for a second. Because when they're on the table, particularly when they're young, spays are by far the easiest, but we do a fair amount of these with neuters as well. So this is the time frame that makes sense. We can do it any time. I can do it at 2. I can do it at 3. I can do it at 6. I can do it at any time, but I'm already in there. They're already knocked out. It's already simple. So what we do in that time is, particularly if it's spay, this is super easy. All we have to do is extend the incision a little bit. I say a little bit, but depending on the size of the dog, it can be, it can be an extra 3 to 6 inches. So it's an extension of the incision. But all you have to do is make a little cut into the stomach itself, just the muscular wall of the stomach, not all the way in there, but just a cut there. And then you make a small incision on the body wall of the same length, and then you tie them together. And then it sutures there. And so it's known as a gastropexy. It's known as an incisional gastropexy. And what's really, really cool about it is now you've welded the stomach to the body wall. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of run and jump and play and eating. It is impossible to have a GDV with a gastropexy. And so I do a lot of the non-emergent incisional gastropexies, do those all the time. I'm a huge fan of them. My opinion is particularly if you have a female, any female dog of pretty much any breed that's older, I mean, that is more than maybe 50 pounds, it's not that big of a deal. It's a little bit bigger incision. It's a little bit more money. And then you can cross that off your list for the rest of their life. Yep. They're 10 years old and they're not feeling good. The one that's off the list is bloat. Doesn't even exist anymore. So,
that's awesome.
super easy, super great.
Yep.
But even with a neuter, right? Even with a neuter, if we're doing a neuter, yes, we have to make a separate incision, but that separate incision is a piece of cake too.
And you're already there doing
stuff. And we're already there doing surgery. They're already on their back. They're already shaped up. It's a little bit more money, another incision and stuff like that. And then we never have to worry about it ever again.
Yeah, we see... I don't know that our local law enforcement do it, but when we go to like K-9 conferences and stuff, there are a lot of agencies that automatically get that done. They get a dog, and that's some of the first things that they'll do with them. So,
I mean, it really, from an agency standpoint,
I think for a working dog, it makes complete
sense. Yeah. Yep.
So
absolutely. I wanted to circle back to obesity for just a minute, and you said there are like a handful of dogs. I'm assuming you mean a certain breeds that's a struggle.
No, not certain. Well, okay, maybe it is kind of breed related. It seems like it, but part of that is because of numbers, right? We see so many labs. And labs are a very interesting thing. Goldens, we struggle with this a little bit as well, but particularly labs. And the reason is because for generation after generation after generation after generation, these are the most trained dogs ever. And what do we use to train them most of the time? Food. So they are ridiculously food motivated. And so I see a lot of labs. I see quite a few retrievers, and I see a lot of fat labs, and I see quite a few of chubby retrievers as well, and they're super food motivated. So among them, there are these dogs. I actually have an employee who has tried so hard over the years to do the best that she can, but there are some dogs that are super hesitant to drop that weight. Just like there's some humans that do the absolute best they can, and they still run into this battle. And we do have a handful of, I wouldn't say a ton, but we do have a handful of those. Now, for most of those, often there's thyroid issues. We can deal with that, but sometimes that doesn't fix it either. And then the next place that we go to is there's a food that is known as, it's called metabolic, and it's super fancy science. It doesn't really matter. It's known as nutrogenomics, and it essentially, the ingredients flip on and flip off certain gene expressions. And if you can just create the gene expression of a skinny animal within a chubby animal, guess what? He loses weight. So there is a food that works pretty well even in those circumstances.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
But there are some dogs. There are a handful of dogs that you just look at the owners with so much, sympathy and empathy, and just go, "Sorry, I know you're doing the best you can." And one thing that complicates this as well, while I said that food matters most, which it does, but of course exercise is going to matter some, particularly their spontaneous type exercise, running around in the backyard and stuff. And the heavier they get and the more arthritis they have, the less likely they are to do that. And so now you have this like double-edged sword where you have this weight that's really sticky and we're having a hard time getting rid of it. And, oh yeah, by the way, those are the dogs that also can't really do much physically. And it's kind of a snowball. So it's just, there are a couple of things where I have a ton of sympathy for clients that deal with a couple of conditions. One of them is dog allergies, right? Because, we can treat them. We can treat the vast majority of dog allergy dogs. Just come on through the door, we can treat it. But it's frustrating. It is long-term. You're going to have issues with it, and it's expensive. All of those things. But I have a lot of sympathy for owners that walk through the door. And I've had a full-blown allergy dog myself. I get it. I've been down that road. If you're struggling with an itchy dog, I feel you because I've been through it. I have a lot of sympathy for owners that have those dogs, and this is another side of that too, where you have these dogs that would have this battle. They're doing everything right. They're doing everything right, and we're still losing the battle. That's really, really hard. Not a whole lot you can do about that. And there's some humans out there
that's what I was just gonna say.
Totally, that understand what I am saying from a personal level. And there are some that just don't seem to follow the rules. The dogs just don't seem to follow the rules.
I feel like metabolic dysfunction is kind of a thing, crosses humans, dogs, all animals really. But I would say that's becoming more and more common in the human world and probably the dog world. And a lot of that probably just comes down to lifestyle and food and environmental
and
things.
genetics too, right? Because we're, again, labs and Goldens are ancient, particularly labs, because every dog has their thing that they're kind of born and bred to do. And labs, one of them, it's to eat. And that's not, and we've designed that. We've designed it because that's how we have trained them. And they're super, super trainable. And they never stop eating, right? It's this combination that you can. This comes back to that comment that you made about how you love them as well, right? I promise you, put 2 cups down for a lab, put 6 cups down for a lab. They're gonna eat it like they've never been fed before, or they'll finish the 2 cups and they'll go, "Hey, I want 2 more cups." And it has little to do with them actually feeling hungry. It has more to do with, I want to eat something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and move into dental for a minute. Okay. I feel like dental is something that like a lot of pet parents overlook. It just kind of goes to the wayside. They don't necessarily see the value in it. So can you talk for a minute about like the importance of it, longevity of health, and why, like, if it's something that pet parents are overlooking, is super important that they take a look at in their pet care?
Totally. I'll even back it up one step, and that is that as a profession, as veterinarians, we don't do a real great job of this. I have dogs in all the time that come into me for a second opinion or something. Dog's 12 years old, hasn't had a dental in 5 years, and they were told 6 months ago because somebody flipped the lip that everything's good. And so as a profession, this one's a tricky one as well. At the risk of pissing a lot of people off. So I will let you do whatever you want to with that one, by the way, from that point. But it's true. Okay, so let's hop back to it. So as pet owners, the reality is too is that's kind of a tough one too. There are 3 magical words that just kind of ring in my head all day long when we have kind of these discussions, and that is ignorance is bliss. Okay, I have somebody that says, "Look, the dog that I grew up with never needed this stuff," and or a dog a wolf in the wild doesn't need this stuff. For one, the wolf in the wild died by 7, right? I don't want my dog to die at 7. But for 2, simply because 30 years ago on the farm we didn't take care of this stuff does not mean there wasn't an issue there. But the dog did fine. Those words just like, they kill me. And they kill me because they're used all the time in the vet profession as well. The dog is fine. Let's watch that broken tooth that's into the canal because he seems to be doing fine. It's an abscessed tooth. What's he supposed to do? Right. And here's a place where we'll go off on a little bit of a tangent. As human beings, we're problem solvers. This is how we're made, right? If you have a problem, we're going to fix it. You don't like walking on gravel, so we invented shoes. You don't like walking from point A to point B, so we invented cars. We don't like the rough ride of the original car, so now we have struts and we have houses and we have lights. We're problem solvers. Give us a problem as human beings, we're going to fix it. Animals are not built that way. Animals are not just like little humans who just can't speak English, right? Right. So animals are designed to pretend like things are fine, to cope, to deal with it, all of that. I have dogs and cats walk through my door almost every single day with horrendous teeth. And owners who are unaware of it, not because the owners but because this animal is built from the ground up to pretend that everything is just fine. 9 times out of 10, I am telling an owner that a problem exists in that mouth and not the animal telling them there's a problem in the mouth, right? What you want is the dog to be drooling or the cat to be crying out or dropping its food. Sure, that happens. Or a big blown up abscess. Sure, it happens. But the reality is that 90% of the time, it doesn't happen. Yesterday I had a cat that came in that I ended up pulling out 6 teeth, really bad tooth resorptive lesions, and that cat had been eating just fine, acting just fine, running around, jumping around, and I'm like, whoa. And so as pet owners, the question then, right, to circle back around after that tangent is that in regards to pet owners, is there something that pet owners, I think that's the question you asked, right? Or is there something that pet owners are overlooking here? And the reality is, let me just give the textbook recommendations. That's what I live by. That's why they exist. That's why recommendations exist. The textbook recommendation from the American Veterinary Dental Society is that a dog who is a small dog, less than 25 pounds, should have a first dental. And when I say dental, I mean anesthesia, and I mean cleaning, polishing, evaluating each tooth, and I would love to do x-rays. I understand that sometimes the dollars and cents, we don't require x-rays, but I would love to have x-rays on everybody all the time. By 1 to 3 years old. Dog less than 25 pounds, the recommendation is to have the first one by 1 to 3 years old. Then yearly dentistry starting at 5. So if you have a 14-year-old dog, even a 60-pounder, we should be on 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th dental. Okay. And with cats, it is similar recommendations. Any cat that has dental disease by 3 years old. Though this is a dog podcast, isn't it? I should have kept that in mind. For you cat lovers, right?
Yes.
This one's for you.
Yeah.
So for cats, any cat that has obvious dental disease by 3 years old should have a first dental, and then also yearly after 5. Right. Okay. And so because this idea is this is often what happens. We go into somebody goes in for a vet visit with a 7-year-old dog who's never had dentistry, and maybe the vet flips the lip and says, oh, no, everything looks fine, right? I'm going to relate that to my 12-year-old son going to the dentist for his 6-month checkup, and the dentist does the same thing. You walk in, you're sitting on there, and the dentist goes, things are good. You can get out of here.
Yeah.
It's just not what happens, because there's no way to know what is happening without looking deeper. Right? It's just like going to the mechanic and saying, hey, why don't you tell me what's wrong with the car by looking at the outside,
right?
Without popping the hood, right? And so this is something super, super near and dear to my heart, and which is the reason that Skyline Animal Hospital, we've been doing this for a long time. I'll do this till the day I die, which is any animal, dog or cat, right? Turtle teeth. I don't even know if turtles have, right? Rabbits,
but if they have teeth.
Yeah, that's it, right? Any dog or cat, you can call up Skyline Animal Hospital and you can say, hey, I would like Dr. Petersen to take a look at these. It'll cost you absolutely nothing. I've done thousands and thousands of these. They're called the free dental consults, right? The idea is if I can just look in the mouth and we can have a conversation, I know what's going on in there, and now you know what's going on in there. And then you can do with that information whatever you want. Yep. It doesn't cost anything. There's no obligation. This is simply just this ability to talk about it. Because back to kind of the heart of your question is we have these pet owners that love their animals dearly, but Fifi hasn't had a dental in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so the question that's being asked then is, oh, well, how do I know I was in 6 months ago, everything was fine? Just walk through my door. Give us a call. Right. We'll take a look at anybody at any time. We'll do a free dental consult, and then at that point we'll go, okay, here's what you're dealing with. Here's what matters. Here's the cost. Here's all of these things. Ask any question you want. Let's talk about anesthesia. That's another one too. We could talk about it sometime. Because everybody's deathly afraid of anesthesia. But for the vast majority of animals that we do, and we do anesthesia on 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, almost every single week, right? Mm-hmm. This idea that anesthesia is super scary, and we do it ourselves, right? If I'm going under, I'm young and healthy, I'm going under for a knee surgery, you better believe I'm telling my kids how much I love them in case I don't wake up. But here's the thing. The risk of under anesthesia is, for some reason, it's scary for us, but for a dog, the average dog is more likely to die in a car wreck in the next 365 days than under anesthesia. Yeah. But we don't question putting him in the car and driving down the road. So anesthesia is one of those things. I'd never say it doesn't have risk, but the risk of dental disease so far outweighs the risk of anesthesia and I do put my money where my mouth is. I have my 14-year-old dog. I was still doing 6-month dentistry on him because he needed it until he passed away.
Mm. So. That's awesome. I think it's just a really awesome and powerful tool that you allow people to come in for those consults and get some feedback and some information, because my next question was actually what are early warning signs owners should look for, but I feel like you kind of answered that when you were like, hey, they're usually not even giving you any sign. It's you getting in there and looking in the mouth and educating them on what's going on in there. So
those things, I mean, they do exist from a standpoint of they're just rare. Yeah. Right? Which is extra drooling, not eating normally, chewing on one side of the mouth, dropping food, and all of that. The problem with that answer is that it fits about 10% of cases. Yeah. And the other 90% of dogs, and here's why. if you're supposed to have yearly dentistry, and I have a 12-pound dog that hasn't had a dental in 4 years, I'll give you a 90% chance he had an abscess tooth within 1 year, maybe 2 of that last dental. So he woke up one day and had an abscess tooth, and that hurt. But what's he supposed to do about it? He didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
He can't
talk.
Yeah.
Right? That's not, and he's built in his mind to pretend like everything is fine. So let's say he's off his food just a little bit or chewing a little bit funny for like a week or two. But what's he going to do? Stop eating and die?
Right.
The answer to that is no. He's just going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so you have these animals that have these abscessed teeth for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and they got to survive. So what are you going to whine about an ouchy tooth that you can't do anything about for 10 years?
Yeah.
Are you going to stop eating and die in the corner? And the answer is no. That's not how they're built.
Right.
So those things that I said, they absolutely exist. The problem is that 10% of the time someone comes through the door because of those things. 90% of the time I go,
You look
oh
and find
snap! Let me show you something.
Like,
This
let's
is
get
my-
that taken care of.
Like, this is not like oh yeah, this happens again. This is my every single day life. Dog comes in just for vaccines or something, and of course I'm gonna look in the mouth really closely, and I go, oh, we got a broken tooth. You see this? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's awesome. And I would think by the time that small 10%, like there were probably, like you said, abscesses or things over the years leading up to that like now it's bad enough we're showing symptoms when we could have used preventative care to avoid getting to that point altogether.
And the really hard thing is, let's talk cats just because it's such a clear example. The number one disease in cats, period, across the board, is dental disease. Okay, 60 to 70% of all cats are going to struggle with at least a certain type of dental disease by 5 years old, 7 tops. It is so common in cats. The number 2 disease that we run into in cats, kidney disease.
Interesting.
And the 2 of those are so intrinsically related that, so yeah, it's a big deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Kidney, liver, heart. The teeth the teeth are hard on all sorts of those things.
Yeah, related to all that.
Totally. Well, and the hard thing is like I said, the most common words that are used in this circumstance, in this setting, is it's fine. And so you have this situation where you have this abscessed tooth that goes on for 5 years because it's fine. And now all of a sudden 5 years later, now we have these
Other issues.
other issues that can't be undone.
Yeah.
Take the tooth out, then it can be undone. But down here, it can't be undone. And now we can just manage it. That's why dentistry is so kind of near and dear to my heart. I'll tell you this too. This is another thing. I got into dentistry because I thought that it was a really, really cool, because I knew there was so much need, and meaning like every dog, every cat needs something done. And there aren't that many veterinarians that are passionate enough about it to do it kind of at a higher level, right? And so I went, oh, okay, cool, I can fill that space. Like I like that. I think that's awesome. And so that's why I got into it in the first place. But almost immediately, what I started to run into, and now I hear it almost every single week, I'll have someone come in, and it's one of the 90% where I'm telling them there's a problem, and then I fix and then I do whatever it is. Say I pull out the 4 teeth, or I take the abscess, do the whatever. They'll call me back, or they're in at the next appointment or whatever. 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 2 years later, I hear on a weekly basis, I have somebody tell me, oh my gosh, I had no idea it would make such a big difference in my dog's life. I hear all the time, whether it's activity, appetite, playfulness, I hear things like, and it's just the teeth. I hear things like, miracle worker, or like, magic, and all of these other things, because we're just dealing with this problem that nobody knew that was there. But now that it's gone, the problem is gone. Now you have these dogs and cats that are going,
I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
and then
So
you
much
see
better.
things, and it's just like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah.
So
And has a direct correlation to their quality of life,
Totally.
which is fantastic.
totally.
Is there things that people can do at home to help with dental care in between, saying coming and seeing you and getting dentals?
Totally. So here's your list. Your list. The gold standard is brushing. Not cats, by the way. 90% of the time you don't, because the disease that most cats struggle with has nothing to do, is not periodontal disease. It is a separate disease, and so brushing their teeth does not defend against the number one culprit in their world. I don't want to say it won't help some, but it doesn't deal with 90% of the problems. And so cats, you really actually don't need to brush. I mean, there's some merit to, but not very much. Dogs, the gold standard is going to be brushing. It is probably the hardest recommendation I give, and guilty as charged. 2 dogs at home, I don't brush their teeth. Nobody brushes their teeth, right? So brushing is hard. I would say that 2 or 3% of my clients actually do it. So not very many, but that's the gold standard. That's number 1 on the list. Here's what makes it really hard. It has to happen every day. Period. Brushing your teeth once a week. If in your mind you just thought, the groomer, brushes the teeth. Well, that's once a month or once every 2 months. And that would be just like brushing your own teeth once a month or once every 2 months. It doesn't do it. So every other day provides 60% of benefit. Every third day provides 0 benefit. And so brushing is a tough one, okay? So you have brushing. The next one on the list is going to be a daily treat of some kind that helps with the teeth. And there's all sorts of products. I am not a big fan of things that are harder than their teeth. Bones, antlers, nylabones. Those are the 3 biggest. Because one of the biggest things I deal with in bigger dogs is broken teeth. And those broken teeth are generally not from biting people like, an apprehension dog is doing. That's how he's breaking his teeth, because you guys are super hardcore about keeping it something that won't break their teeth. But bones, antlers, and nylabones, they will break teeth, and then now I have to either fix a tooth, take the tooth out, abscess tooth. I deal with broken teeth almost every single day, and it's from hard treats. So I'm not talking about hard treats. I'm talking about generally consumable treats. So Science Diet TD is a really, really good one. Greenies are not necessarily my favorite, but I don't have a problem with them. There are several other products that are like that. Rawhide strips. Oh, man, I just said rawhides. Oh, snap. A lot of people have problems with rawhides. It's by and large just unfounded. So we can talk about that too if you want. But a consumable treat of some kind goes a long, long way. Water additives make some sense. So you can dump some water in there. A water additive that helps to knock off some of the plaque and tartar. And then regular dentistry according to recommendation. And out of all of those, yes, you can do stuff at home. But for those individuals that don't do any of those things at home, literally for most of those dogs, if we just do the regular dentistry where we're starting over, it goes a long, long, long way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So since you touched on rawhides, let's go there, because we actually do get asked a ton on like what treats, or what can I give my dog, and we do see a lot of people come in with really hard toys, antlers. So let's touch on rawhides, but then let's touch on, I guess, maybe what toys are good and what toys are bad.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Okay.
And some of this is probably in moderation anyway, But.
Totally. So I'll say this again because this is really near and dear to my heart, which is anything's harder than their teeth is going to break teeth. They do a great job of keeping their teeth in good shape right up until they break them. So bones, antlers, nylabones, horse hooves. I get questions about bully sticks as well, and bully sticks are kind of a little bit of a gray area, but if you forced me to answer, I would say I'm not a huge fan of those either, because they are bone and they break teeth. And I deal with broken teeth every single day. And these are the big culprits. Sometimes you'll have a dog who likes to carry a log around in the backyard, big sticks or something, or rocks. Rock chewing dogs are going to break their teeth. So those guys fit in there too. But the problem with rocks and sticks is you really can't. You're not the one giving them
they
that.
go find it.
Okay. So then we'll move over to rawhides. I hear this all the time when people I say rawhides and people go, well, doesn't that cause intestinal issues? No. It doesn't cause intestinal issues. So it's nothing more or less than a protein that is just like other proteins that when it hits your stomach, which is this acid bath, pulverizes it. So in 17 years of practice, I've never had an obstruction from a rawhide. Not one. However, the last obstruction surgery I did, I'm trying to think through this and make sure I don't have one in between. I don't think so. The last obstruction surgery I did was from, no, that's not true. It was from a toy. So we'll talk about a toy. But the obstruction surgery I did before that was from a bone. I have done probably 10 or 15 obstruction surgeries over the years from bones, which no one ever thinks about, and not from rawhides, because bones don't disappear, and then they accumulate and they get junked up, and then or a whole bone can be swallowed as well. But that's but not rawhides. Not rawhides. One time in my career, exactly one time, I have had a rawhide where the dog consumed a little bit too big of a portion, and as they went to swallow it, it got stuck in the esophagus, not in the trachea, but in the esophagus. I personally have never. This is something that happens occasionally. I've never seen it, and that is that it gets stuck in the trachea, and a dog can die from it. Okay, it is something that happens. It's really rare, but it can happen. But it could be happen from anything they consume.
Yep.
Okay, so rawhides fall on that list. But I had one dog, it got stuck in the esophagus. It was a bulldog. Knocked the bulldog out, placed a stomach tube, punched it into the stomach, and we were done. That's the single rawhide related issue I have ever had. Occasionally, the big rawhides, you can still have a dog that will break a tooth on them, but it's fairly rare because they have a little bit of give to them. But especially when they get a little bit wet, then they have more give to them, and they consume those. So those are rawhides. Toys in particular. I deal with more obstructions from toys than anything else. So toys are the biggest culprit as far as obstruction surgeries are concerned. Followed quickly probably by socks and potentially underwear.
Yeah, we see. Yeah.
Yes.
We hear about that all the time too.
Yep. More than once.
Yeah.
I have literally, like probably 5 or 6, 10, maybe 10 times over my career, we'll have a dog come in just for a neuter or spay. Kind of a wily, type of dog come in for a neuter spay. We'll pre-med it for surgery, and they'll throw up because of the pre-med, and they throw up a dish towel, or they throw up a sock, or they throw up something. You're like that, and you're like, okay, there we go. Well, that was a good use of that pre-med. So, so from an
So it's not
toys.
not really hard toys for their teeth that they could break harder than what their teeth would
Correct. I want a little bit of give. Anything that's rubbery, it's got a little bit of give.
give, so they're not breaking or not as common to break teeth on. Rawhides are fine.
Rawhides are fine.
Are there certain, like I always got my rawhides from you because you've got them.
Those strips.
Yeah.
That's my preference. My preference are rawhide strips. So
Okay.
they have them for small dogs all the way up to bigger dogs. They're designed. They come in a bag of 30.
Yep.
And there's 30 days in a month. And that is not a coincidence. The idea is that you give one a day, and they'll spend, depending on the dog, they'll spend 5 minutes to 2 hours kind of chewing on that thing. They're designed to be consumed. They're thinner, so that they get kind of looser, and then they'll eat portions
Little
and
pieces
pieces
off,
off
yeah,
of it.
tango
Those
up
are my preference, are rawhide strips.
Okay. And then just as far as toys in general, things to probably watch for, and we can ask you this. Make sure the toy is big enough that they cannot swallow it.
Correct.
And then watching, you see all these fluffy and stuff-filled toys and that really aren't overly safe for dogs, I don't think. Especially if you have a dog that, if you have the dogs that carry something around and they don't shred it and that, then it's probably okay. But generally the dogs that are going to tear stuff apart and that kind of stuff, I'm guessing not filled toys and soft toys.
In general, I'd say not, but I will say that I've never actually had an obstruction from the stuffing.
Okay.
Most dogs who destroy them don't consume the stuffing. Their entire bent is
to shred
destruction.
It.
Right?
Yeah, just tear it apart.
Yeah. So yeah, if a dog has that tendency, then let's not waste our money, but let's also, but I've never actually had an obstruction from the stuffing. I will tell you where I do have, though, is that the original rule that you gave is too big to swallow, which I totally love, but that includes parts and pieces of it, right? Halloween, don't go by the spider that has 6 legs hanging off of it, or 8 legs, or how many, right? Because they can eat those things, and that's the type of thing that can cause obstructions, will be those. But I'll be honest, most toy-related obstructions are occasionally they're from a destroyed toy. The last surgery that I did was a toy that had a handle on it for throwing, and the dog had some luck destroying the handle, swallowed the handle, and that caused an obstruction.
Okay.
A little bit more rare. I don't run into that as much, but the biggest thing is generally going to be smaller toys. So a bigger dog that has a toy like this. So the obstruction, I want to say 3 obstructions ago, it was a couple of months ago or whatever, was like a little like stuffed hedgehog type of thing or something like that a bigger dog had swallowed. Whole. Yep. Smaller toys, bigger dogs is something that we run into trouble, but also parts and pieces of said toy. If it's got legs that are hanging off and stuff like that, those are also obstruction risks.
Okay.
For sure.
Perfect. Well, why don't we talk about vaccines and preventative care for a minute? So from our standpoint, we get a lot of pushback on, I mean, vaccines are a controversial thing. Humans, dogs in this world, they are. And we had kind of done our research on what more like the national standard of care is as far as those go before we decided to open our boarding suite area, and then felt it was very important to consult with you and see what your thoughts were and what your recommendations were, which matched what we had done with our research. And I would say, I think part of it maybe is like the area that we live in. And so just maybe not all of the vets locally standardly give the two that we get the biggest pushback on. But here at Idaho Elite K-9, the ones that we do require, if you're going to board, are rabies, bordetella, DHLPP, so that includes the lepto in that, and canine influenza. Pretty standardly, everyone has everything except the lepto vaccine and the CIV vaccine. And we get a lot of pushback on that. I've had people board here who say that other vets or their personal vet says there's no need for that. We will, after visiting with you, we waive it on a first time boarding, but after that, they have to have it to board here. And that's after we visited with you and we kind of felt comfortable with that. You felt comfortable with that, but can you maybe just give a little background of why those are important if you're going to be boarding and things like that, especially?
See, that's the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing. The biggest thing here is that what you may choose to do with a dog that's chilling out in the backyard is maybe one thing, or based on your lifestyle. I have my strong feelings on that, but what you may choose to do, there's a lot of that's going to be personal preference. But that's different when it comes to you guys in particular, when it comes to a facility, because you're not talking about the health of that one animal in a backyard. You're talking about a health of, the 52 dogs that happen to be all in the same space.
Right.
So while an individual veterinarian or an individual pet owner may have a problem with the single vaccine for their single dog, that may make some sense in that setting for them, but it doesn't change the fact that you're not just worried about that dog. You're worried about every single dog that dog is going to come in contact with, right? And so that's a different thing. Lepto, let's talk about lepto. So lepto is it's fairly rare, but it has the potential to be really, really bad.
Yes.
And so these guys can tell you horror stories that they're aware of, that I'm only aware of through second or third hand knowledge of boarding facilities where they have a lepto outbreak. Because if a dog happens to show up, let's say that dog was unvaccinated for lepto and it went hunting in North Dakota last week and was exposed to lepto. Okay. And where lepto comes from by and large is exposure to standing water. Which sounds like we got to be in like a marshy area or something like that. But the reality is that can be your backyard after a rain. Now, you have to have something specific in there, which is going to be usually raccoon urine in that standing water. But that can accumulate anywhere a raccoon may or may not hang out, and any water that involves that. And so it's not all that common, but it's deadly.
Yes.
Meaning most dogs that contract it don't survive, and it is easily spread from one animal to another. So there are these boarding facilities that just have heart-breaking, heart-wrenching, horrible stories, not just for the boarding facility, obviously, but for every single pet owner of the 25 dogs that ended up dying in a 2 or 3 week period because they were all exposed to lepto because one dog went hunting in North Dakota, came through the door non-clinical, spread it to everybody else, and then that dog got sick 3 days later, and then everybody else got sick the week later. Lepto for a boarding facility is the idea of not requiring lepto for a boarding facility like this is a non-starter as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
It is a little bit like Russian roulette, and it does not make sense. So from a lepto perspective, pushback or no pushback, that is one that if I was in your, this is why we have this discussion.
Yeah.
If I'm in your shoes, there's no way I'm going to do that without, right? Lepto is a matter of potentially life or death. And it's not gonna happen very commonly. Yeah, and tell that to the 25 pet owners.
Yeah, when it does.
So lepto is a really, really, really big deal. Okay. So the second thing is canine influenza. Okay, canine influenza is another one that if we choose not to do that with your own dog in your own backyard and all of that, then that's fine. But canine influenza is a really, really easy to spread upper respiratory infection that can go through. We got 52 dogs, or whatever. Again, you have 50 dogs that are sitting here, and one dog comes in non-clinical for CIV and starts to spread it around. And now you have 15 or 20 dogs that are coughing, and you're fielding these phone calls because people are mad because this dog was sick because it never got it never got the shot in the first place. And so from a boarding facility standpoint, that it just doesn't make sense to expose everybody to this place where you have this potential, this single dog who didn't want to do it. And look, here's the thing. I'll offer a very, very easy solution in this circumstance. If you have someone who's gone to a veterinarian, they've been seen recently, and that went well, and then we will at Skyline Animal Hospital, I'll do the lepto the lepto vaccine. We'll do a CIV vaccine. I don't even charge you an exam fee. You won't see a doctor. I can give the vaccines. I can have somebody give those vaccines. Legally, the law says that with certain vaccines, though, it's not going to apply to either one of those, honestly. That it doesn't have to be given under the direct supervision of a veterinarian. So I will require a recent visit with a veterinarian. But if they don't have it, I'm not going to make you come in and pay for another exam. I don't have any problem. Just call us up. Hey, we want to board over there. We need CIV. My vet doesn't do it. Cool.
Yeah.
Walk through the door. You'll be through my door in 3 minutes, and we'll send you out the door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
I
send.
have no problem with that.
And we do, and we send people your way for that because a lot of people will be like, my vet doesn't even have it, and we say, well, you can go here and he'll have it and he'll give it to you. So
Totally.
I think sometimes people think that we live in this little small community. It's not so small anymore, but and we don't have that stuff around here. We don't have this, or we don't. We get dogs from all over the country here. We have obviously Yellowstone. We got a lot of the parks around here. We have people that come in for big hunting trips with bird dogs that bring their dogs. They stay here at night. They come get them. They go hunt with them.
We've had boarding trains come in from as far away as Tennessee. Like,
Yeah,
we
so
really do have dogs from
everywhere. So
every
when
state.
people try to say, well, my vet says that's not around here, that shouldn't be a problem around here. We get dogs from all over the country. So
Totally.
we want them all to be up to date, and we want as safe as it can be. Like you say, it's not fair just because one person doesn't want to do something that eventually it could affect, a whole bunch of other dogs that are here. So that's why we require that. We do get a little pushback on it, but we
Which, like, I try to be pretty sensitive to, because by far and large, like, you obviously know, but very like holistic in my thoughts about medication and doctors and like healthcare in general. Like, our family does things sometimes a little different. So I feel like from like a person to person level, it's easy for me to be like, I completely, if they're like, hey, we just do things more holistic.
Yeah.
I can completely sympathize and empathize with that and be like, I fully get that. But for boarding facilities our size at a national level, if we're looking at the health of all the dogs in our care and the liability of a business owner, we have to do that for the health of everyone that's in our care. And when we're providing the level of care that we are and the standard of care that we are, it wouldn't make sense to just allow people to just not do
And it
that.
is hard sometimes. We've had people walk in, they're getting ready to leave for the day or for the week or the month or however long. And, we've sent stuff. They know what they need to have, and they walk in and don't have anything. I mean, we've had people walk in, don't even have a rabies. And it's like,
Well,
Totally.
on that note,
Sorry.
I think a lot of facilities only require
Yeah,
babies.
a lot of them
there's a
around
lot,
here,
like
yeah.
that's all they'll require.
Yeah, several other recommended, including distemper parvo. But the reality is that when push comes to shove, the only one that they will send you back out the door is the legal requirement of rabies.
Rabies, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
which means that we're potentially exposing. I cannot tell you, not from here. I cannot tell you how many coughing dogs I have dealt with that just got back from boarding.
Yeah.
Not here.
Yep.
I dealt with one from here, but I've dealt with hundreds. I wouldn't say I don't know, maybe 1,000 over my career that I've dealt with in that setting that is preventable.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah. So it is hard. We send people, but we've had to send people like, sorry, you're going to have to find somewhere else because we're not willing to put all the other dogs at risk because
Totally.
you don't want to do that.
Totally.
So
I have 50 other people that have trusted me with the health and welfare of their animal, and I'm going to respect that.
Yep.
And that's my job, is to do that. So we groom at Skyline Animal Hospital, and we have a lot of clientele that come in for grooming that aren't that use another veterinarian, which is perfectly fine, but we still require those vaccines.
Yes.
Yep.
Because of the risk that every other animal is there, right? And that's just not fair to have have one animal because they don't want to do it, put everybody else at risk. And the idea there is, well, I'm okay if my dog gets canine influenza and does some coughing. Okay, that's fine. But it's not possible or okay for you to take that risk on your own shoulders for dozens of other pet owners
that are probably not okay with
that are probably not okay with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Thank you for breaking that down. Just because we get a lot of questions about like why.
Totally.
I would say locally we probably have the strictest policy on
You
that.
do.
And
So do I.
Yeah,
It's on
you
purpose.
do. You
Yep.
get a lot of pushback sometimes. So I am really grateful you took time to help explain
totally.
that for us. So
You got it.
we're starting to wrap things up. We wanted to ask you what your favorite, I'm sure you have lots of them, but what one of your favorite success stories at Skyline Animal Hospital has been.
So I'll give you a really, really recent one, just literally from the other day. One of the things that's really cool about vet medicine actually is the idea, is this kind of reality that there aren't very many weeks that go by, definitely no months, but honestly weeks that go by that I don't go, dude, I've never seen that before.
No.
that's
I've never
awesome.
seen that before. This is a profession that is infinitely unfolding. I see stuff that's new all the time. And so last Friday, a 9-month-old dog come in named Sky. Okay. And you may have seen this on TikTok. If you haven't, you should. So we had this 9-month-old dog named Sky come in and has been coughing for 2 or 3 days and comes in coughing blood. And I mean blood, coughing blood all over the place. And as a veterinarian, that's a case that's scary that you just go. And we jumped in and we tried to do this and we tried to do that. And the blood just kind of kept coming, shot x-rays. And we were like, well, they don't look great, but they don't look awesome either. And then we were just trying to kind of navigate. And then we got kind of closer to the end of the day. And now Sky is not barely standing. And the blood's still coming out. And we were we could not, based on all of our tests, it was it was a tough one because we didn't know exactly. There was nothing that was clear cut. We didn't have a clear cut answer that was going on here. And I will admit that 3 times during the day, my team will probably tell you it was more like 5 or 6. I said, "This dog's not going to make it. This dog's going to die. This dog's not going to make it." I was at 4:30 in the afternoon. We'd taken the second set of X-rays, and I went, "This dog's not going to survive the night." But dog could hardly stand, and now the bleeding had taken its toll, and so now the dog was anemic, and I went, let's transfuse him. Let's do a transfusion. Let's just see how it works. And so fortunately, we also run a dog blood bank out of Skyline Animal Hospital. So that's another one that we could talk about for days, and that is donors. We need them desperately. So if this resonates with you, then let's talk about it. But anyway, so one of my, Randy, who runs portions of K-9 Blood Heroes, her dog is a donor, and she's there, and we're like, oh, let's do it. So Dublin goes in back, we draw Dublin, we give it to Sky. 30 minutes later, blood is done, dog standing up, eating treats. It was
it's amazing.
what just happened here, right? And so Sky comes in, that was on Friday. Sky comes in on Monday of this week, Tuesday of this week, wagging. In fact, like I said, if you want to see this on TikTok, and there's a part 1 and there's a part 2. And the part 2 is their meetup of Dublin, who is at work, and Sky, who comes wandering in, and they're sniffing each other, and they're like, so that is one of those that's just I told you at the very, very beginning, what brought me into vet medicine was this idea of biology being incredible and just wanting to be a part of helping to navigate that through health.
Yes.
And that was a situation where I was just
Awesome.
Yeah.
because I had lost hope. I'm telling you, I was like, this dog not going to make it.
Well, and had you not had your blood bank and Dublin there and a donor, that dog Sky very well could have died.
Without a blood donation, the dog would have died. And in hindsight, it becomes clear that he had that Sky was struggling with a bleeding. It was a bleeding thing more than anything else, but was eluding us test wise in these different tests. So it got to a certain point where we went, we're doing this anyway, which came up at the very beginning of the day. It's well, we could do a transfusion. We're like, I don't know if it's going to help though, because based on And sure enough, transfusion, this guy's doing awesome. So he's
That's
just
awesome.
wiggling,
Cool.
waggling. So that's going to be one of my more recent, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
So happy with that one. Super cool.
Yeah, everyone should go check out those videos because they are awesome. And the one where they're meeting is just, it's adorable. It's so cool to see them both in the same space. It's awesome.
Yeah. Loved it.
Yes, it was awesome. Well, in closing, is there like one thing that we haven't touched on that maybe you wish pet parents like knew or understood sooner that you would want to close out with, or do you feel like we've touched on most all of it?
We've probably touched on it. I mean, I can't reiterate enough. One of the things we talking about at the very, very beginning was this idea that Skyline Animal Hospital is built to provide kind of, lifelong health for your lifelong friend, which really, if you break that down, what that means is these daily, weekly, monthly, yearly decisions that we make. Mm-hmm. That if we make the right decisions, those things accumulate and these guys live longer. And those decisions matter. They're very real. And those are a lot of the things we talked about. What we feed them each day, that matters. Dental health, it matters deeply. Vaccines in the right circumstance, it matters deeply. Regular checkups, finding that mass, that lumpy bumpy that you go, I don't know what that is. Well, we should probably talk about it because we can get in there and that thing may be cancer. And just by taking it out, now the cancer's gone. Yeah. Deal with that all the time. So the little decisions that we make every day, let's incorporate those into how much we love our animals. Let's not just love them by feeding them X, Y, or Z, or let's not just love them by the time that we spend at the park, but let's also love them from a preventative medicine standpoint.
Absolutely.
Because then they live better lives and they live longer lives.
Which is what we all want.
Dude.
Like they're part of our family.
That's
what we
it.
all want.
They don't live long enough as it is.
Yes. Yep.
Right? I
They're
think
just here for, like, a
everybody out
minute.
there can go, yeah, I want my dog to live 30 years. I want my cat to live 40 years.
Yes.
We all want that. We're not going to get 30 or 40 years, but man, if we can get 15 instead of 10,
That's amazing.
come on.
Yep.
If we can get, that's what it's all about. And that's why Skyline Animal Hospital does what we do.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Okay, well, thank you for stopping by. We had a whole bunch of questions we were going to go through, and we answered some of them, but we have a bunch more that we'd like to go over at some point, so we'll have you back another time. But we're running out of time today, so I'll let Rachel close us out, and thank you again for coming.
you got it.
I think really quick before I go ahead and close this out, do you want to just tell everyone where they can find you and more information about Skyline Animal Hospital?
Yeah, so website obviously is skylineanimalhospital.com. Anything that we talked about dentistry-wise, anything we talk about obesity-wise, there's a lot of information on there. So you can go just kind of cruise that place. You can also reach out to us through that. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, we are there as well. Come find us. We have pretty active, new pretty new page
Newer.
because this woman over here is a genius and she's been helping me out.
know about that.
Earlier we talked about how I had spent some time helping them out, and we've spent some time in this realm as well. So come check us out. It's something that we're passionate about, and we want to do it right. We want to do medicine right. We want to do training right. We want to do boarding right. We just want to do it right. We want to offer, I think as kind of a team, we want to offer you guys out there the best that you can get. And so that's where you can find us. And like that free dental consult, it's a big deal.
Yes.
If that resonated with anyone there, literally just call us up. 208-529-3244. Just call us up, and I promise you we'll find you a free dental consult in a short amount of time. Get you in, we'll talk about teeth. And then at least you know, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Then at least you know.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, all of the things. There's no question you can't ask me that I won't give you away. If these guys can attest to anything, it is that I am a straight shooter. And so if you have any question out there like that, you will have no problem getting a straight answer to it.
Yep. And everyone should take you up on that free dental consult. That's huge for sure. Well, we will go ahead and link all of your ways to contact you in the show notes for the podcast for everyone. So if you guys need to get a hold of Dr. Petersen, we'll have that in the show notes down below for you. So I know you're crazy busy, so we appreciate you taking time out of your day to come visit with us. And thank you for all that Skyline Animal Hospital adds to our local community, for our pet parents, and for caring for the K-9s.
Law enforcement,
all that you do, and all the ways that you help us and are willing to let us bounce ideas off of you too. So we appreciate you in so many ways, and can't wait to have you back on again. So for the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us for episode 14 of Elite K-9 Unleashed, and we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in to Elite K-9 Unleashed. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and share with a follow dog lover, trainer, or handler.
We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at any time at support@idahoelitecanine.com.
And if you're ready to take your dog training or boarding to the next level, you can find us at www.idahoelitecanine.com and www.idahoelitecanineboardingsuites.com as well.
Until next time, stay consistent and keep training.